Hello, my lovely witches. I hope you are all well today. I am going to do a little bit of crafting with you today. Witch crafting, magical crafting, actual crafting. I have this jumble of mess on my desk, which is going to become a healing wall hanging charm for healing. So I've done a bit of prep work so that this video isn't too long and I don't have to edit big long chunks out of boringness that you don't want to watch. But to give you an idea of what we're working with, we have, this is a ring used predominantly for making, I think, dream catchers and things. You can buy these in craft stores, you can get them online on Amazon, eBay, etc. They're not very expensive, they come in big packs. This is a thrifted doily that I have dyed using some liquid watercolour, Ecoline brand liquid watercolour. You don't have to use liquid watercolour, you can use fabric dye, you can use very thinned down paint of some kind, ink. It's not going to go through the wash or anything, so it doesn't need to be, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? It doesn't need to be colour fast, I think is the right word. So whatever you happen to have that is liquid that will impart colour onto something cotton, because this is a cotton doily, will work. I would say if your doily is synthetic, you will need to use a specific liquid dye for synthetics, because most things won't colour synthetic. It's tricky. But most of the cotton doilies, most of the doilies you find in your local op shop, thrift store, charity shop, whatever you call it, are cotton or some sort of natural material and can easily be dyed with any wide variety of things. You could even use eco dyes. You could use things like hibiscus tea produces a pretty pink, so does what's the word I'm thinking of? Gosh, my brain's gone just when I'm trying to do a video. Sorry guys. Avocado stones, avocado pits and the peel. That produces really pretty soft colour. You can also dye using things like blueberries. They produce really pretty colours. Beetroot. I don't know why I'm going with pinks. It's strange because this is a healing charm. But you could use blue butterfly pea flower tea for making a pretty blue colour. That would be great if you're looking for an eco alternative. So the first thing I want to do is actually get this attached to this. So that's going to be probably the most boring part for you guys of watching this video because, yeah, sorry, I'm not going to edit. You know I don't do that. So I've got this skein of wool here. Again, this came from the op shop. I'm not going to use very much of it. It's not going to take much to get this thing attached. So I'm going to cut some pieces. They'll be longer than I actually need them for, purely for the ease of working. And then I take my doily and I slip my wool through. Probably be easier if I had a wool needle to do this with, just for ease of use. But anyway, I'm just going to do it with my fingers, and I hope you guys can see this on screen. It's probably not easy. And then with this sort of sitting in the middle, just so I've got an idea of how tight to tie it, I just tie the first piece to the ring. We'll come back and trim those pieces off later. So we're just going to do that for now. Cut another piece. And I'm going to tie the opposite side. This way you're more likely to get it a bit more even. If you're really, really anal about getting things even, then you might want to do some measuring on this. That's not me, it's not my style. You guys know that by now. So, and you can tie it tighter than you think you can. These guys do stretch quite taut. And then I will turn it around and I will do the top and the bottom again so that we're sort of working in quarters, if that makes sense. Cutting another piece of thread. threading it through. And tying it up. And doing the same at the bottom, the opposite side. Threading it through and tying it to the ring. And while I'm doing this, while I'm tying these knots particularly, I'm also tying in my intentions. So you could be saying this out loud. I tie this charm for healing. This charm is to heal me. I am healed. Sorry, I'm moving out of frame there. I'm so sorry. While you're tying them, you can say it out loud. You can say it in your head. You can just think it, visualize yourself being healthy and healed. This one's specifically to keep me healthy. I do have a few issues. Middle age is fun. Nothing serious, don't stress. But things that I need to just keep on top of, keep checking in on myself with. You know, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, a few things like that. I am on medication for them. So don't ever think that witchcraft replaces medical assistance. It doesn't at all. But it can be really beneficial to help things along. So this is getting there. We've got probably 2 more, maybe more. The more you tie, the sort of firmer, I suppose, it sits. But do what you think, you know, sort of use your intuition. See where you feel like it's at any given point. If you think it's done, it's done. If it's not done, it's not done. You know, just use your gut. That's what I do. Basically, you're just, you know, filling in the gaps now. Once you've done the first sort of 4 or 6, you're filling in the gaps to make sure it's neatly tied to its ring. And you could make a charm like this for any intention you like. I've clearly used some colour magic here. I'm doing the blues. I was talking about all those pink dyes. You could make a really lovely charm for bringing in love. It's sort of, this almost acts a little bit like a web to bring those things in, and it gets them stuck like a spider's web to your charm. I have one that I made, a larger one than this that I made, that hangs next to my prosperity altar for abundance. And it's great. I love it. It's beautiful. I've been wanting to make this healing one for a while and thought, yep, do it on camera with you guys. But you can do it for any purposes you choose. Great for a protection charm, really great for cleansing, you know, sort of keeping your house healthy, as it were. Does that make sense? I hope I'm making sense. I don't know. You will let me know if I'm not making sense. You'll probably switch this video off if I'm not making sense and just be like, yeah, whatever, Alexandra, you're an idiot. So anyway, that's okay. We're almost done with tying this on. I think I've got maybe 1 or 2 more to do. And then I'm going to trim those. Again, I'm probably coming out of frame. Honestly, worst YouTuber. Sorry, guys. So if you tie too many around it, you're not going to be able to do the next step, because we need some of these pieces to hang, particularly at the bottom, to hang our ribbons from, which is why I've got this big pile of junk here. Looks like a mess, but it's going to be beautiful, trust me. So I think that's probably just about done. So I'm just going to trim off the ends. Like so. Now I'll leave one at the top, so at some point I need to decide which is the top, don't I? I think I like it that way up. So I'm going to leave that one there as a hanger to hang it from, and just trim the others. Okay, so that's it there, looking good. Yeah, okay, fantastic. So the next step is we get pieces of ribbon and pieces of wool or cord or trim, whatever you happen to have. Bits of lace would look pretty, whatever you've got. I have lots of wool because I used to do a lot of weaving, and I don't do as much weaving anymore, although I usually do it Beltane, so I've got some weaving probably coming up in my future, certainly. And I have also added to the bottom of, not all of them, but some of these ribbons. Again, I did this off camera because I didn't want to bore you shitless. Some charms, I've got bells, and I've even got some buttons. I'm really into button magic at the moment. I recently inherited the family button collection. I don't know about you, but my mother and her mother and my paternal grandmother and my great aunts all had button jars or button tins. And I recently received and became the keeper of the buttons. So I have a lot of buttons, and they have a lot of memories attached to them. The whole concept of the button tin has a lot of memories, and I wanted to use them in magic because I feel like they're wonderful little tokens. They hold a lot of energy. They hold ancestor energy for me, and they, yeah, you will be seeing more button magic in the future. So what I'm doing here is literally just looping my ribbons onto the ring. So just to show you that again, so you've got your piece of ribbon or wool in this case, loop it in half like that, loop at the top, take your loop under the ring and pull the rest of the ribbon and the charm through and pull it taut, and it will sit and hang nicely. So that's all we're doing. We're just looping the ribbons through and pulling them taut so that they hang at the bottom of my charm. Hopefully I don't get too tangled up with my pile here. And I'm just doing these at random. You could have a specific plan if you wanted to. You know, a certain pattern, a certain, you know, number of types of ribbon per piece, do it all quite methodically, but you know me, I'm not the... I can jokingly say I'm a chaos witch. I'm not a chaos witch at all. I don't practice chaos magic. I don't even really know an awful lot about chaos magic, to be honest. What I do know is that I'm chaotic. So the joke is that I'm a chaos witch, except I'm not. No disrespect meant to chaos magicians out there, because it is a very interesting, serious practice, and I'm being frivolous and silly with it, and I'm sorry if that's offensive. So don't want to offend people. I'm not here for that. You practice what you practice, and I respect everyone's form of practice. So sorry to be making jokes like that. And yeah, this is it. This is definitely all it takes. It's so simple. I hope this is inspiring to you. As I said, the same as with the knots. When you're knotting the main piece in, you can add your intention with every knot. So this is where it becomes more about the magic and less about the craft itself. Although that could also be construed as being about the craft, couldn't it? This is what I love about witching. You can make everything about the craft. Being a witch is awesome. Do you agree? I don't know. I love being a witch. I wonder sometimes how muggles cope. Oh, this one probably should have been ironed before I used it. Look at this. This is a cute little buckle. There's a rhinestone missing, but that's okay. Again, this has come out of the family heirloom button box. What was I saying? I distracted myself with shiny things. I was saying I don't know how muggles cope. I mean, I must have a dozen more, I don't know, a lot of protection charms and things around my house, not to mention all the other magical charms and things that I do. How do muggles go through life without magic? I don't know. I don't know how they do it. Like, I would be just so stressed all the time if I didn't have my magic. Is that silly? Is that how you guys feel? I don't know. Is this unique to me? Am I a weirdo? I mean, you know I'm a weirdo, so that's right. I love being a weirdo too. I have a very lovely friend of mine who calls me her favourite weirdo. She's probably the only person I know that would get away with that. And get away with it, she does, and it's actually, you know, it's quite nice, really. So although some of these ribbons are a bit in need of an iron, with the charms on the bottom of them, they will actually, once it's hung, straighten out quite well, and that will hopefully make it look better. These are some little resin pieces that I created. There's another one. Ages ago, I made a set of wind chimes, which you might have seen on my Instagram, if you follow me on Insta. And these are sort of leftover pieces that I didn't end up using on that wind chime. So I've taken them out of their jar and I've given them the intention of healing, and now they're going on to my healing charm. This is quite meditative as well. It's quite an enjoyable process. It's something that you can do, you know, in the evening while you're watching some witchy TV, if you like. I often do magic this way. Art magic is different from some other forms of magic, I feel. And this is a personal opinion, obviously. You have to do what you feel is right. But I find that a lot of these sorts of art witch practices that are meditative, I can do while I'm relaxing in the evening, while I'm, as I said, watching TV, or, sorry, my watch keeps pinging off. It's damned Instagram, I tell you. I'll just put it on silent. It just notifies me about all sorts of things I don't want to be notified about. What is that about? You know, so-and-so's posted a story. Yeah, I don't care. If I want to see it, I'll look at it when I'm looking at Instagram. Stop notifying me. Anyway, rant over. So I'm going to add some of this beautiful leaf trim. Love this leaf trim. But it does get very tangly. So that's why I kept it separate in its little plastic bag while I was creating the other strings, because otherwise it just kept tangling up with them. So yeah, I don't mind working art magic whilst doing other things. I think my intention still goes into the work. I don't think it's affected personally by whatever else is going on in, you know, what I'm doing. And this, for me, this goes same. I mean, I'm not going to probably put on a healing charm, or, you know, work on a healing charm whilst watching a horror film, for example. Like, that might not have the greatest energies, but just sitting down and watching, you know, some of my favourite witchy YouTubers, or watching Practical Magic for the 15 billionth time, or something like that, I think that works quite well, and it's quite pleasurable, and it can be a nice way to decompress and work your magic at the same time. I don't know what you guys think of that, and I'd be interested to hear your thoughts. Because I think this is the thing, like, witchcraft is such an individual practice, and we all have very different feelings on it, you know. I mean, when I first started practicing, it was the late 80s, early 90s, I think. And Wicca was the thing. That was, if you were a witch, you were Wiccan. There was no two ways about it. It was just that kind of synonymous, well, pretty much. I mean, maybe there were a few people out there who were practicing some traditional witchcraft, but mostly you were Wiccan, because that's what it was all about back then. And it's sort of, you know, so yeah, there was a lot of that very sort of ceremonial aspect, I suppose, is what I'm trying to say. I'm not good with words today. I don't know why. So there was a feeling that you couldn't, you know, practice magic if you hadn't cast a circle, for example, to contain your magic. I don't really believe in that, and I think most folkloric witchcraft practices don't agree with that either. Like, I think that magic traditionally, apart from the sort of ceremonial magic, which is valid if that's your jam, you go for it and wield those magical swords. But ceremonial magic, I think, is the exception. I think that most traditional magic, most traditional witchcraft was done with intention, sure, but it didn't require fancy, you know, circles to be cast. It didn't require fancy tools. It just required the accessible things that were, you know, used for the specific purposes that they were done for. I've recently been listening to an audiobook about Cornish, specifically Cornish magic, West Country magic, which I find fascinating because that's my heritage. I have family roots going back a long way in Cornwall and Devon, as well as my Scottish roots, which I've also talked about, particularly on my dad's side, but also on my mum's side. And so I'm fascinated by the West Country witchcraft practices, which were practiced for a very long time. I mean, they still are. I think there is a sort of an unbroken witchcraft practice in that particular area of the UK, and it may not look so much like the magic I might practice today, but it's fascinating to look into from the perspective of my heritage and what I might be able to use from that now. There's some great ideas for charms, particularly using ash that I was listening to, because I think I've said this before, I've got several ash trees on my property, and I love ash as a herb to work with. I feel a real affinity for it. I love my ash tree. I have one main ash tree in the backyard that I'm close to. work a lot with tree magic. I hadn't realised this, that I didn't know I was a tree witch. I love these labels. I actually think they're a bit silly to limit oneself to being a certain thing. But, yeah, I can be a tree witch. Sometimes I'm a tree witch. I do work with the trees on my property, in my back garden. I say property, it makes it sound like I've got some massive property. I don't. It's a suburban house, but it's got a fairly big backyard and has trees that I have connected with. I think it's important to connect with your genius loci. In fact, weirdly enough, that's the oracle card I got today. There you go. So, so yes, connect with your local space, where you are located. I think that's really nice, and it's an individual way too to practice magic. I think if you can connect with where you are, your magic has a uniqueness, because it is not the same as, you know, someone who's just down the road even. I'm waffling, I know, but I'm hoping you're enjoying my waffle. This is going to be a very rambly video while I finish off the last of these little charms and things that I'm hanging on here. This is a cute one. I actually came across this in a bag of junk from my op shop. You know how much I love op shops. So this feels like a good one too. And anything that I collect from the op shop, I will usually just give it a little quick smoke cleansing to cleanse it of any negative energies before using it in my home, full stop, but certainly in my witchcraft practice. So I'm very curious. I'd love to know what you guys are all been up to in the art witching space. Have you been getting stuck into your Book of Shadows? Have you been creating, I don't know, candles? Have you tried out anything new in a craft that you can adapt to use in your witchcraft? You know, I was speaking earlier, I used to do a lot of weaving just as an art form. And now I actually almost exclusively only do weaving as part of my witchcraft practice. I do like to use found branches and things to weave with, you know, coloured ribbons and wool and what have you, and make charms. I will probably do that again this Beltane. Because I'm a solitary practitioner, I use the idea of the maypole, you know, for Beltane, but do it in a I'm by myself kind of way. And yeah, I weave or I sew. This would also be a really good craft for Beltane, because it's a bit like a weaving. It's got that circular feel to it, so it's a bit of a maypole vibe. Which is a nice way, I find, to incorporate that tradition without having to find myself a bunch of people to weave a maypole with. I don't think I have that many friends. Nor do I have that much time to be organising that kind of stuff. So I think this is just about it. I think this is done. And, oh, I'm sorry, I just completely knocked the camera. You're all wobbly. I hope you're not getting seasick. Sorry, guys. So here it is. This is the charm. It's going to hang, I'm not sure, I'm probably going to hang in my bedroom, I think, or possibly my bathroom. But both places I see of best places of healing. It could also hang in my kitchen, because where I do kitchen witchery and make herbal teas and baths, and I often do my magical oils and things in there. So that's another space of healing. Food is a very healing thing, especially if you choose your kitchen witchery ingredients according to the correspondence of healing or the medicinal properties of herbs and vegetables, for example. So there's a couple of places I haven't decided yet where I'm going to hang it. It'll be wherever it looks good. I hope you've enjoyed this very rambly, very messy video. And I hope you take this on board and have a go. I will, once I've decided where I'm going to hang this, I'll post some pictures on my Insta. So look out for that and you'll see it in its final resting place. Bye-bye, my lovelies. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you were bored shitless, you probably turned it off so you won't be hearing me at the end. Bye.